Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Noel Nix. I am the Director of Community Initiatives in Mayor Carter's office, and we really thank you for joining us tonight for our CIB community discussion focused on our Parks and Recreation proposed projects and 5-year capital plan. A couple notes before we get started. One, we are recording the meeting tonight. So you'll notice that there's a little red symbol up in the upper left-hand corner. We anticipate that there's folks who would have liked to have been here tonight, but may have opted to enjoy the wonderful weather that we're having. So they have an opportunity to kind of hear the details that are going to be shared tonight and forward questions. That's why we're recording. So we'll share it on the city's YouTube channel, and we'll share out the link here probably tomorrow morning. So that it's easily accessible and available. So what we'll do tonight is we'll have an overview of the 5-year plan for Parks and Recreation. Then we'll look specifically at the proposed projects for the 2022-2023 capital improvement budget cycle. We'll take questions after we've walked through all the projects. So if you do have a question, feel free to either drop it in the chat or just hold on to it and we'll call on folks. And then at the very end, we'll review next steps in the CIB process. So Alice, I will turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself.
Great, thank you, Noel. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alice Messer, and I'm Manager of Design and Construction for Parks and Recreation. I'm here tonight with my fellow manager, Tom Hagel. Tom is the Manager of Operations and Maintenance, and he's here because our work together is so important as we find the balance of investing in what we have, responding to change, and providing new amenities for the residents of St. Paul. Parks has always been an important part of quality of life for all the residents of St. Paul, and I think we've all noticed that during the pandemic, this has placed additional pressures and priorities on our outdoor spaces for all the reasons that we know. It's a place that we can all be outside and be together. Most of you know me from CIB presentations where I actually come with requests to accept funds from various partners, grants, or funding sources. With limited funds, we need to be creative in our funding sources to provide a great park system for our residents. We've been the #2 park system in the nation for the past 8 years. It's something that we're very proud of. We also have over $600 million of assets within Parks and Recreation. So this process, this $11 million in CIB funding tonight is a really important piece of our project portfolio. So thank you for joining us. I am happy to be here to go over our 5-year plan and then talk about specific projects that we're putting forward. Next slide, please. So tonight, Noel went through the agenda briefly, but Tom and I will go through the 5-year plan. And then we'll focus on projects proposed for the 2022-2023 budget and then have time for questions and next steps. So to start off, I want to start off with the data that goes into this 5-year plan. There's a lot of key tools that go into figuring out what are we going to focus on in the next 5 years. So you'll hear reference to Amoresco. That's our asset management study. You'll hear reference to the tot lot annual audit. So that looks at the 75 tot lots within our system. You'll hear reference to the systems plan. And then we also have the Davy tree system. And then we look at previous CIB proposals. So those are kind of the big categories that put together our ask each year and a map for the 5-year plan. Amoresco is especially important because it provides reference to address deferred maintenance. So Tom does a much better job of keeping his cool together, but it's really hard to look at this graph and this number and realize that our gap per year really to stay with critical need is $10.2 million per year. And so as we think about this CIB process, that's $11 million for the full city. The reality is that this backlog just continues to grow. And as you look at the numbers from 2020 to 2021, we went from 77 million to 85 million just within a year. So just that planting that seed that there is so much need, and as it continues to build up, it just elevates the problem. So when you hear requests for deferred maintenance, it's really thinking about the critical needs within our infrastructure. And then this is an example of the tot lot funding that's ranked each year. So the 5-year plan, you'll see as we look at projects, there's a couple different funding sources. There's the CIB process. We also have state funds and we have federal funds. So I realize you can't see this 5-year plan, but all of these sources are in here, and it's really strategic about looking at what matches are required for other grants and funding sources, and then starting to map out our 5-year portfolio. So again, tonight we'll look at these 2 years, 2022 and 2023. So the first year is actually 2021. So this is what is in the budget right now. These budgets have been approved. On this first slide, I will point out the capital maintenance annual programs. So these are annual programs that recur each year, and they're focused on capital maintenance, outdoor court restoration, parks grant preliminary design, citywide tree planting, improvements to the play areas, asphalt restoration, and then the parks and library capital asset. So these are funds, if you think about, they're used for the whole city, and it would be restriping tennis courts, or if there's damaged equipment at a play area, this would be the source of fundings for those repairs. And then as we get into more capital projects, that's this piece of the 5-year plan. So for 2021, there are funds for North End Community Center, the energy efficient upgrades, deferred maintenance, and then the community proposals that happen. So those are Central Village, Payne Avenue Skate Park, Lewis Park, and Lighton Park. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Noel, you're already ahead. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't, with my camera on, I can't watch both presentations. So on year 2, you will see this is the proposal that I have for 2022. Again, you'll see the annual programs at the top. These are repeat ask, and then really under this section, rehabilitate, replace, are the new asks. So again, North End Community Center is on there, and then we have 3 play areas. So Hayden Heights play area, Homecroft play area, and Merriam Park play area, and park upgrades. Those 3 play areas are the next 3 in the tot lot list that are eligible for CIB funds. There are also CDBG funds that are eligible for play areas, and so you'll see over here Hazel play area, Prospect Park, and Duluth and Case. Those are proposed for CDBG funds. So as we look at the list, we're aligning projects that are eligible for CIB versus CDBG funds. Next slide, please. Year 3, again, the annual programs repeat, and then we continue to look at funding for North End Community Center, improvements to Kellogg Park Mall, and then the community proposals. Next slide, please. Year 4, North End Community Center again, Margaret Splash Pad, and then I have the play areas are not identified because it's recognizing that the assessment changes each year as there's more critical or as more equipment will fail or there's different accessibility issues, that ranking will change. So leaving those as a more of a blanket spot. And then Mears Park, and then the community proposal funds. And so the one thing I want to note on all of these, if people are noticing the yellow line, you'll see the projects that we are putting forward are actually slightly exceeding the CIB amount. So just, again, the need is so great to be able to meet the resources that we need. Next slide, please, Noel. And then year 5, you will see the North End Community Center. The proposal is that those 4 years of funding will get the funding of the new recreation center facilitated. And so as that funding is no longer needed, it starts to open up a lot more projects for the community. So we have Rice and Arlington, Willow Reserve, Highland Community Center fields, Jimmy Lee fields, two new play areas, Victoria Park, Arlington Hills field improvements, and Linwood. And you're probably thinking, gosh, why are all these field improvements on here? The intention is thinking about the need for the field, and as we group these projects together, there's cost efficiency in doing some combined work at these sites. Next slide, please, Noel. And then at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Hagel, and he will go through the slides focused on deferred maintenance and the annual program. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Tom Hagel, Parks Operations Manager. Thank you for having me this evening. I'll start to go through a few of the different project slides as well. This one is starting with the Parks Deferred Capital Maintenance. That's usually a fund that supports some 1.5 million annually in capital maintenance projects. As Alice stated earlier, a lot of that focus is on the Amoresco asset data that we have. As you can note at the bottom of the sheet, it does state that with that program, the city has established a facility index rating of 10%. And as she stated earlier, our overall assets are at 600 million and growing. With that said, with some of our newer buildings that we've taken online, we are now starting to go at a greater clip and getting closer to the $800 million mark. And our facility condition index is actually starting to increase. And when you use the word increase, we're going from a 10% to closer to 14%. 14% in this condition is actually a worsening score, and meaning we need more money to keep up with our current assets. In the coming year, with the 2021 capital maintenance dollars, we'll be focusing on projects like Miriam Park, a new boiler system, a very aged system, Fail in Oxford, North West Minnehaha. We have many sites that are in need of either fire detection panels or security panels as those systems start to age. The Rice and Arlington Athletic Center, as it's stated on here, is another site that needs a fire panel. We also have many different roofing projects slated this year as well for Hancock Recreation Center and making some considerations for the concrete boardwalk at the Como Zoo and Conservatory. We can go to the next slide. The energy upgrades, this is another portion of savings through different funding source and trying to identify places where we can save some dollars, as well as provide new equipment for some of our facilities. Examples of that again are Hancock, which is the capital maintenance fund, but some of the other sites that we're trying to achieve these dollars out of are at Como Lakeside for a new air handling system, Battle Creek for new air conditioning, air handling systems for the gymnasiums, Wilder, which is an older boiler system and in need of replacement, and Martin Luther King, Haley Q. Brown, some makeup air units and air conditioning throughout the facility. Those projects equal up to well over some $724,000, and other projects to be considered as well. Those are joint funds through the Office of Real Estate and Finance, as well as funds that we're putting towards those as well. Next slide, please. Outdoor courts and restorations, going back to the asset management facility condition index. Again, back towards that 10% mark. As you can see on here, we're creeping closer to 40%. Looking at a current backlog of some 4.7 million for a fund where the funds that I see are about $200,000 per year for outdoor court restorations. With that being said, it just shows the growing gap of what we can do, what we can provide with the dollars that were provided. Some of the upcoming projects for this year, Center, Webster Park, and Prosperity. There are other sites that continually grow and go onto that list based on age and years of service that they've been in place. A lot of growing crack restoration and tennis courts, as you can see in one of the pictures above, as well as some of our more transition futsal courts like Hamlin Park. Next slide. Alice, is this one of yours?
Yeah, I can take this one. So this one is 30,000 that supports the design and construction staff team to put together grant preparations. Anyway, so as we apply for regional solicitation, legacy grants, DNR grants, it's a funding source to support staff time for those. Thanks, Tom. Next slide.
Citywide tree planting. This goes closely in line with a lot of what we have going on with EAB. And as those trees come down, going through this dumping process and reestablishing locations and sites throughout the city. Currently, there's some backlog of some 10,000 trees that need to be planted this year. Our greater focus is on districts 15 and 17. A lot of this, again, goes in a cycle that is just offset by where we are currently doing EAB ash removal. Last year, we were able to capture quite a few different districts. This year, these districts that are listed are a little more dense with more trees, making the area a little smaller, but still a need. On average, we spend some $330,000 annually to maintain our current infrastructure of replanting, but looking to increase those costs as well to develop a more long-term plan to get through the EAB process. Next slide. Children's play area improvement sites. This again goes back to a lot of the tot lot features that we have. As Alice stated, there's some 79 tot lots throughout the city. Many variations of age and infrastructure and what that looks like to us. Continually to reference back to the facility condition index of that 10% that we're looking for, and currently somewhere almost near the 30% mark. As we continue to go through those sites and as stated earlier, re-inspect and provide an annual audit. That list continually changes based on annual inspections. And those sites that we pick in instance of repair often change based on what that inspection tells us on a regular basis. Because of COVID, we weren't able to do the 2020 inspections as fast as we can. So this year, based on timeliness and need, we're combining both the 2020 and 21 safety audits at the same time to improve what that inspection plan looks like for the coming years. Next slide. Asphalt restoration. With the endless amount of pathways and parking lots that we have throughout the city, we have a substantially large list of sites that we have in mind for repairs. Some of the ones that are slated for this year and still trying to go through the process of cost estimates is Valley's Boys and Girls Club. The water is actually intruding into the backside of the building because of the pitch on it and creating a situation inside the building that needs to be corrected immediately. Phelan Lakeside Picnic Pavilion to the bridge is a lot of seal coating and patching and a continuation of work that we've done over the last few years. And Mounds Maintenance is one of our maintenance facilities that is in need of some reconstruction, not only in the parking lot, but along the pathway that connects Mounds Park to that park as well. Again, to go down some of the list of the parking lot sites, the Rice and Arlington, which is a heavily used site for many events, is in need of some help, as well as Dunning, Hancock, and the athletic fields where the softball fields are at for Dunning as well. Again, this is a fund that averages some $250,000 per year, trying to manage both some sense of priority for both trails and paths as well as parking lots. As stated, again, referencing back to the facility condition index score, this in regards to pathways and parking lots is near 32% in its ranking as well overall. Parks and Library Capital Asset Revitalization Plan. It's been a very beneficial plan for us. It has allowed for not only the library system, but also parks to provide many different facility updates to some of the rec centers. Specifically, what's taking place in the next few weeks is a lot of flooring projects in my world, focusing on Martin Luther King, Linwood, Northwest Como, and Dayton's Bluff this year. A lot of this strategy is to get rid of the removal of carpet. Carpet is a challenge material to keep up on a regular basis. Trying to find some solutions and going towards a luxury vinyl tile. If you've been to some of our facilities, an example to that would be Edgecombe. Recently, you'll see some of the renovations that we've done there in Langford. With some of that luxury vinyl tile, more durable product, and allows for maintenance to be more expedient in some of the process throughout the building. Annually, that's approximately about $200,000 in that fund for parks specifically, and that has been working out great for us to take advantage of some of those dollars to do some upgrades for the facilities on a regular basis. A few of the other things that I should say that we try to focus on during that is the bottle fillers for drinking fountains have become very popular, and it's a feature that a lot of our rec centers are now starting to see, and really good use. Next slide.
Thanks, Tom. So this is a new project. It is a priority of the mayor and something that has received funding to date. So North End Community Center, it was formerly the Rice Recreation Center, which is right now is located within an elementary school, and it's set back from Rice Street. So previous funds received have been towards construction documents. So this project is actually probably 98% shovel ready, and we are also working up at the Capitol with our youth commission to ask for state funds for construction of this. The construction estimate is about $20 million in totality, and so as I was going through the 5-year plan, if you'll notice, North End Community Center was in 4 years. So as we work on major priorities of the mayor and recreation centers, it takes a lot of the CIB funds to break it down into phases. But I will say this facility is going to be amazing. It is going to meet a need on the north end that is not there right now. The idea is to pull it to Rice Street. So this rendering that you see here shows the building right along Rice Street. The library, Rice Street Library would be right across the street. And the design is very intentional about connecting people to Rice Street, having light come in. And then there's kind of 2 sides of the building that are connected by a courtyard. So this is more of the meeting room, program space, and then this is the gym. And so you can see the photo down in the corner where you see the person kind of up in the window, that's actually at Rice Street level. So you're able to look into the gym, and then on the back side, it would actually open out into the grass field, connecting that space to other outdoor recreation amenities. So hopefully we are successful up at the Capitol, and we can readjust our 5-year plan. But if not, this is our plan to be able to deliver this great new community asset to the neighbors and to the residents of St. Paul. So the ask would be is $5.5 million in 2022 and then $5.5 in 2023. Next slide, please, Noel. The next project is Hayden Heights Play Area. So this actually is ranked #1 on the tot lot list after Harriet Island. That Harriet Island has received funding through our Legacy Regional Park System. So we have a plan for renovation of that. So this really is the next one on the list for renovation. What I will say is this is connected to an existing recreation center. There is lots of demand on the play area. The community has started to organize and start to think about what the recreation center could be. And so I think being able to renovate the play area will be a tremendous asset to the community. It's also thinking about new residents moving into Hillcrest, the former Hillcrest Golf Course, and thinking about how demand is only going to increase in the northeast corner of St. Paul. Next slide, please. And then the second play area on our list is Homecroft Play Area. This actually used to be Homecroft Recreation Center. It has since repartnered with St. Paul Public Schools and is the Mandarin Immersion School. St. Paul Public Schools, I've connected with them, and they actually have plans to do pretty significant renovation to the building in the years 22 and 23. So renovation of the play area actually is well timed. Even though this is adjacent to a public school, the land and field space is managed by St. Paul Parks and Recreation, and the demand from the neighborhood to this space is really high. It's within Ward 3, and the low-income residents of Ward 3, this actually is their closest park and open space. So it really is loved to death, like many of our park spaces. Next slide, please. And then the last one is Miriam Park play area and park upgrades. And if people have been on the committee for a long time, Miriam Park has been on the list, I think, going back to 2007. This is a pretty large park within St. Paul Neighborhood Park. It's over 10 acres. There's a recreation center there. There's baseball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts, basketball court, a play area, and one of 2 skate parks within St. Paul. We have been in discussions with City of Skate, which has allocated some funding from the state to assist with the design of the new skate park. So the skate park is over 16 years old and is barely holding on. We continue to do a lot of patchwork, but really it has outlived its life. And I think as we think about providing services for all ages, play areas, are pretty specific for the 5 to 12-year-olds. Skate parks start to open up that age use and goes to that kind of young adult and even beyond age group. So the funding request here is for renovation of the play area and then also construction of the skate park, realizing that the design of the skate park would come from funding from City of Skate. Next slide, please. And then the next project is Kellogg Park Mall. So if people have been downtown recently, Kellogg Park Mall is between Wabasha Avenue and Robert Street on the downtown side. This park, again, has been in the CIB queue for quite some time. I will say 2022 and 2023 is the year to be looking at Kellogg Park Mall. There are so many things happening downtown. The schematic design of the river balcony is going to be underway. We just submitted the RFP to get a design team on board. Public Works is reconstructing Kellogg Boulevard, which runs right along Kellogg Park Mall. The Ramsey West building is happening. Wabasha Avenue is going to be reconstructed. All of these things that touch Kellogg Park Mall, it's really the time for parks to be able to address some pretty significant accessibility, drainage issues. It just needs some investment, similar to Rice Park and to what we've been trying to do at Mears Park. So just thinking about work happening around it, this is the time to have some investment in Kellogg Park Mall. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it. So Tom and I are happy to take any questions on any of those projects. I realize it's a lot of information to absorb in this virtual format, but.
And so if you'd like to ask a question, we ask that you use the raise hand button. So you see a symbol at the top of your Teams interface that looks like a smiley face and someone raising their hand. And then directly below that, there's a button that it looks like a raised hand. So go ahead and use that, and then be sure to take your hand down when after you're called upon. And then also, since we didn't do introductions at the beginning, please introduce yourself when you ask your question, just your name and what neighborhood you live or work in. And we'll go to Darren Tobel.
Hello. I have my camera off. Darren Tobold. I live in the West 7th neighborhood, and I'm on the CIB committee. My question is about just that last item with the Kellogg Street Mall. Can you talk to the River Balcony vision and sort of how that relates to River Balcony? I mean, it seemed silly to do a lot of work on that if it weren't necessarily really tied in, and I assume it is, but.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Great question. So it absolutely is tied in. The river balcony is a 1.5 mile promenade, actually. So you think from Eagle Street all the way down to Sibley, connecting those spaces. And so the schematic design that will happen this year will set the design standard. So it will set what are the paving conditions, what's the lighting standard, what's the plant palette, so what is this space going to be, what else is it going to look, and how, most importantly, how is it going to connect to the river and to the civic buildings as well as private buildings that go along it. So that, again, the timing is perfect because that schematic design will be completed in about, I think, 6 to 8 months. So if you think we have through the summer and fall to lead that process, then that will be the guide for the improvements at Kellogg Park Mall. And and then in an ideal world, we tie it with Public Works and we maximize resources. So we direct Public Works like, yep, if you're going to move the curb, here's where you're moving it, and then here's the treatment. So it all blends together.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Other questions? All right. If there aren't any other questions, what we will do is turn it over to Madeline Mitchell with the Office of Financial Services to kind of talk through next steps.
Yeah, great. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I hope you found it interesting. I did. I know it's always fun to hear about the new parks projects that are coming down the pipe. So the next steps in this process, we have the survey open online at stpaul.gov/CIB. That will be open through the end of the week. So be sure to get in there and give us your feedback. And then after the end of this week, the capital planning team, that's a team made up of department representatives and 2 members of the CIB committee. The CIB committee is made up of residents. That team will start meeting to evaluate these proposals that you've seen here today. And if you've been at any of the other meetings, those proposals as well. And they will put together preliminary recommendations that they will submit to that resident group, the CIB committee, who will make final recommendations by June 30th to the mayor. Before those final recommendations, there will be a public hearing on June 14th. So if you would like to weigh in on any of these projects that you've seen today, you can do that either via the survey, or you can send comments via email, or you can attend that June 14th public hearing. After the proposals or the recommendations from the CIB committee are submitted to the mayor by June 30th, the mayor will read through all of those and make his recommendations in his proposed budget, which is released in mid-August. From there, the city council will take it over and consider the recommendations made by the CIB committee and the mayor before adopting the 2022 budget in mid-December. There will also be a truth and taxation public hearing that happens every year in early December, so another chance to weigh in on these projects. As a reminder, there's $11 million available in capital improvement bonds for each year. So $11 million in 2022, $11 million in 2023, and that is allocated over both these one-off projects and the annual programs that you heard a lot about today. So not a whole lot of money for a lot of really good projects. The capital planning team, the CIB committee, the mayor, and the city council have a really tough job in prioritizing these projects over the next few months. So I encourage you to stay involved in this process. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you for coming.
All right, folks, have a good night. Take care.
Good night, everyone.